Watch this.
It's election day across the 208. If you forgot, that's okay. You still have time to get to the polls because apparently some of the races are bigger than you might have thought. The public's passionate about some not-so-partisan races, including a sewer district and a library district trustee seat. We'll dive in. The public is also passionate about our public lands, which could be in jeopardy if Congress votes to sell them off in a late-night vote. So how did we get to this point in time?
We probably see more cattle and horse thefts than anything.
On public lands and private lands, there's an area of crimes you may not think about, but it's a real problem in our community. Livestock crimes. And now, we're at risk of seeing even more. Did you earn a sticker today? There's still time to add to your collection. If not, it's election day. That's the joke. And it's election day across Idaho. Polls are open for a few more hours. If you forget or forgot, that's okay, because this is a very local ballot, and not every area in our great state has something to vote for this go around. But there are some community leadership positions up for vote, plus funding for entities like auditorium, highway, hospital, library, water, and sewer districts. Most of those can tax you, so maybe that gets your attention. We learned and shared with you just last week, though, that something like the Eagle Sewer District suddenly became a heated battle for the pipes. A sign of the times. Even the most nonpartisan race, or what we thought would be nonpartisan, is getting a us versus them battle. Team colors and mascots all together. And the race, according to the Idaho Code, it's not set up to be backed by party affiliation, but it sure was this go around, creating questions from the community. And it's not illegal to say, I will run the sewer district in a Republican way. It's just a way to platform your race to get a specific sector of the votes. And the trend even caught the eye of Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain. He checked in with reporters earlier for an Election Day update, something we never expected to come up, a main talking point, the Eagle Sewer District.
People are touting the most conservative person for the Eagle Sewer District. My favorite was Brandon Wolf's like, what does that mean? I only flush once. And I feel like that should be on a bumper sticker. It feels like that would be the winning tagline on a yard sign. That's because how politics enters the Eagle Sewer District, I don't know, but it has gotten hot.
And there are so many things to say, but we'll just move on for now. Another race drawing a lot of attention, the position for Ada Free Library District trustees. With so much talk in recent years about books, content, and community libraries in Idaho, you could probably see that one coming. People fired up about book bans, what people should have access to, and what is considered pornographic in a library sense. Maybe more surprising, though, the money going into this election.
Decent amounts of money being spent on very, very low local taxing districts, you know, and so I don't know. I know that over $20,000 has been spent on the Ada County Free Library District, which is right up there and, you know, competing with some small legislative races, which is kind of interesting.
So this is not to say there's anything wrong with that, just to be clear. It's just surprising that a local library trustee position draws more campaign money than a state lawmaker. People are getting involved, it seems, in some ways more than others. So polls close at 8 o'clock, local time, by the way, and you can check out our KTVB voter guide right now on our website if you would like to know what's on your ballot, if your area has a ballot. A political fight is playing out this month as some Republican congressmen propose selling hundreds of thousands of acres of public land across the West. This came up as a congressional issue. Congress is working on their budget reconciliation bill, which President Donald Trump calls the One Big Beautiful Bill. Maybe you saw that headline today. And to break this down for us, Morgan Romero here on the 208, as she learned the proposal to sell off public lands, it's igniting some blowback.
It is, absolutely, Joe. Specifically across the West, you know, many conservationists and lawmakers are strongly opposed to what they say is taking public lands out of public hands, and they worry that this could open the door for the same thing happening here in Idaho. But not all Americans are happy with how our land managers, mainly the Department of the Interior and the Forest Service, have been managing federal land in recent decades. As President Trump tasked Congress with making and saving the government money through budget reconciliation, there's a renewed push to transfer federal lands to states' hands or sell them off. Earlier this month, the House Natural Resources Committee quickly introduced and passed an amendment authorizing 500,000 acres of federal land in Nevada and Utah to be sold or transferred to local governments or private companies. Representatives behind the proposal say the parcels would be used for infrastructure projects, mining, economic development, and affordable housing. Idaho Congressman Russ Fulcher is on that Natural Resources Committee. He signed off on the bill with the amendment. He said he wants more local and better management of public lands.
This provision identifies specific lands where we can generate revenue in locations that are appropriate, that will also generate a strong financial yield to the Treasury due to local growth, and will do so while serving community public purposes by selling targeted parcels for fair market value to local government entities for infrastructure needs.
And that's the Congresswoman from Utah who pitched this proposal. But Idaho Congressman Mike Simpson doesn't want to see all this public land transferred to states or sold off to private companies this way. Conservationists and sportsmen's groups agree, and they believe if this amendment goes through, it sets a scary precedent.
If you were to sell them, would probably be in the neighborhood of $1 trillion, maybe a little more than $1 trillion. We're $37 trillion in debt. We've got to do a lot more than selling off public lands, and especially if the result is going to be that we lose access to these public lands and the places that we love in Idaho.
The kind of situation going on now and opening up the door to disposing of public lands in this very behind the curtains way is one of the most worrying things from the concept of actually losing large tracts of public land that I've seen in my lifetime.
Coming up later tonight on the news at 10, we dive deeper into the fight over keeping public lands in public hands. You're going to hear more from your elected officials about why they are or are not for this.
And it's such an interesting topic here in Idaho, because if you talk to some Idaho congressional leaders, they will have the opinion that there are lawmakers from maybe the East Coast that fundamentally don't understand why Idaho is so unique with public land.
Absolutely. You know, Idaho is among the top 4, depending on what list you look at, for states with the most federal land in the country. More than 60% of Idaho land is federal, which is public land. You look at, Connecticut or Massachusetts, it's like 1% or less,
Yeah, it's a foreign concept there. As you highlighted, though, a split, idea between congressional delegations in Idaho.
Yes.
Interested to see your report at 10. Thank you, Morgan.
Thanks, Joe.
A series of livestock crimes has shaken some rural Idaho communities in recent months, and we're talking about stolen livestock, animals shot, really damaging actions to our ag communities. And incidents put a spotlight on whether or not investigators are seeing a rise in livestock crime cases in a broader sense. The question here is, why is this happening? Aspen Shumpert sat down with Idaho's brand board today, looking to get some answers. And before we share this with you, we do want to warn you, as a part of the story, as a part of some of these crimes, there are some graphic images, including livestock. If you choose not to see that, you would probably want to turn off right now.
The Gem State is known for agriculture and livestock being a significant part of its identity. The Idaho State Brand Board investigates crimes against livestock, working together with local law enforcement.
Whether that be doing inspections or investigating theft or illegal slaughter of animals.
In recent months, more and more incidents are getting community attention. A pregnant horse shot in Murphy, a working dog shot in Payette.
And I started looking and I found a blood trail. And so I trailed it to where he had died.
Just this month, a miniature stud horse taken, stolen off a property in Jerome.
Sometimes somebody will try to slip them through an auction.
Cody Berlisle, the director of Idaho's Brand Board, says a common motivation for livestock theft is their value.
It's profit. Typically people think of livestock theft as somebody stealing livestock out of a pasture. Doesn't always occur that way. We do see that, and it still happens, but we also see illegal slaughter of animals, whether it be slaughtered for meat purposes or sometimes just animals that are slaughtered and left lay.
But a tricky part about all of this for investigators, motive for grand theft or illegal slaughter can be hard to pin.
It's tough to tell what the motive is if somebody shoots an animal and for no profit.
While these recent cases have raised public awareness, Berlisle indicates there hasn't been a significant increase in overall livestock crimes yet.
We haven't seen a large increase recently, but the conditions are definitely right for theft to be on the rise.
The primary factor creating those conditions? Record high livestock values. Yep, inflation there too.
We tend to see theft trend with those prices. When the prices are high, we'll see more cases of theft occur. You have baby calves that are selling, for close to $1,000 or more right now. That's a very large increase from where it was 5 years ago.
For owners looking to protect their livestock, Berlisle has 2 clear recommendations.
Definitely branding your animals. So that is the number one factor that will, it not only deters theft, but it also increases your chances by 90% of getting those livestock returned.
And quick reporting.
The sooner that we can be aware of the problem, the more that we can help.
Berlisle says while recovery rates for stolen livestock in Idaho are high, around 98%, he still recommends all livestock owners stay vigilant, as we could start to see a rise in cases with prices of livestock being high right now.
And I've talked with ranchers in the past, and it's such a difficult thing to monitor because sometimes you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have your cattle out there doing their job. It's hard to notice right away if something goes missing.
Especially the ones on public land who can't be on that land every day to watch their livestock.
Yeah, okay. Something to monitor heading into the summer. Aspen, appreciate your report. Idaho's ag scene is no small potato. Idaho produces more than 100 different ag commodities and is among the top producers in the United States for potatoes, wheat, sugar beets, dairy, cheese, and cattle. But unlike the smell that follows you after eating some, you probably didn't notice that some Idaho farmers grow asparagus. Yes, here in the Gem State. And as our Hunter Funk explains, there was an entire festival dedicated to the veggie. I love asparagus. This is great.
Right? Me too. I had no idea, Joe, that something in Idaho that we grow is asparagus. But I've learned a lot. Many people who grew up in Idaho, especially around the Magic Valley, most likely know about the wild asparagus you can find along the roads and canal banks. But there are very few farmers actually growing it in Idaho as well. With Idaho's climate and soil, it gives growers a seasonal edge. California and Washington, the biggest asparagus competitors in the United States, aren't able to grow it during April and May, so it makes it a specialty crop. Despite the advantages of filling a hole in the market, it's a labor-intense crop. So with the high labor costs, fierce international competition, and shrinking acreages, the number of farmers growing this has dropped over the years.
Asparagus used to be a lot more prominent than it is now. Washington, California, Idaho all used to have hundreds of thousands of acres, and it's declined a lot. We are now one of 2 or 3 producers left in Idaho.
We, as in Owyhee Produce. Owyhee Produce, they produce asparagus, and it's thriving, and they want people to know about it. Well, coming up on the news at 6, we're going to look at the Asparagus Festival and what they want people to know about this special piece of produce, Joe.
And it's healthy, it's good for you, and it's easy to make delicious.
Yeah, and now you can also go to the canals and get it, which I had no idea.
No, I think the potatoes, for good reason, get a lot of attention, but don't forget about the other cash commodities.
Exactly.
All right, thanks, Hunter. We'll see you at 6. Well, remember, you can watch all of our great reports from Hunter, Inside Agriculture Stories. Those are on KTVB+. All you have to do is tune in to KTVB+. You can download it for free on your smart TV and watch it today. Busy day across the 208, and our Aspen Shumpert tells us about a lot of changes happening in Idaho because of federal and local politics. Let's get to Aspen for today's 411.
The Idaho Commission for Libraries says a $6.3 million federal grant for the Digital Access for All Idahoans plan was canceled. They say more than 80% of the money was going to be used for subgrants supporting rural Idahoans, specifically older adults and veterans, that would have provided devices, digital skills, and cybersecurity training and tech support. Boise State is issuing guidance to faculty before the new state law regarding limitations on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs, which takes effect on July 1st. The Freedom of Inquiry in Higher Education law bans public universities in Idaho from requiring DEI-related courses or having DEI offices. KTVB got a hold of an email sent to Boise State faculty explaining the impacts of an Idaho State Board of Education memorandum issued on Friday. The memorandum says students cannot be compelled or required to take any DEI classes, but they can still choose to take DEI-focused electives. In the email, university leaders say they're reviewing academic programs and plan to request exemptions for some, especially those centered on race, ethnicity, or gender studies. Faculty aren't required to change their course content, but Boise State will offer guidance to help them align with the law. Nearly a year after the Caldwell School District instituted a $100 pay-to-play fee for high school athletes, the district says they're getting rid of it starting next school year. The fee was put into place after the $4.1 million levy failed last May. However, a second attempt at the levy passed in November. Our partners at the Idaho Press reported that the district also received financial support from local businesses to help offset the costs. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Aspen Shumpert.
Oh, and a huge congrats to all of our graduates this week, whether it's from kindergarten, high school, college. 'Tis the season for all of those celebrations. I know this is the final week of school for many of our area school districts as well, and the unofficial kickoff to summer coming our way with the Memorial Day weekend. So I know a lot of folks wanting to get outside for those celebrations, to do the backyard barbecuing over the weekend. And the good news is we have a warming trend that kicks off tomorrow. We have not seen temperatures in normal or above normal territory since May 11th. And so we welcome the warmer weather. In fact, it could be downright hot by Memorial Day, temperatures flirting with 90 in the Treasure Valley by next Monday. However, between now and then, we do have some pockets of precipitation and unsettled weather that will still be possible off and on. But today looking really nice out there. We're in the mid 60s, about 10 degrees cooler than normal. No active weather to speak of right now, just a few clouds overhead. That is an indication we still have some moisture in the atmosphere. And at the surface, we still have some breezy winds to contend with, really picking up in the Magic Valley right now. Sustained winds around 25 miles per hour in Jerome. Not quite as breezy in the Treasure Valley, just enough to be noticeable and keep a bit of a chill in the air with those mid 60s. But generally speaking, the rest of your Tuesday evening is looking really nice. Our sun doesn't go down until 9:09 tonight. At that point, we'll be dipping into those upper 50s, but we'll stay in the 60s with a lot of sunshine overhead until that time. All right, satellite radar picture for the Northwest shows that disturbance from yesterday tracking off to the east. We see a little bit of light precipitation over western Washington. This will stay to our north. We have to go all the way out here to find the next disturbance lining up to come in. This won't affect us until Thursday. It'll bring some spot showers mostly to the mountains. Can't rule out a stray shower in the Treasure Valley Thursday. Another weak system will come in on Friday. That could trigger another round of late day storms and showers. And then we turn our attention to high pressure that will start building in over the weekend and really boost our temperatures back into the 80s and again near 90 degrees by the holiday. Typical temperatures for this time of year for the Treasure and Magic Valleys, low to mid 70s. So tomorrow we inch closer to those numbers. Upper 60s on deck in the Magic Valley tomorrow. Lots of sunshine. Still chilly in the mornings though. Upper 30s in Twin Falls tomorrow morning. So kind of an onion day tomorrow. You want the layers early. You'll likely peel them off as the day progresses. We'll hit those low 60s for Sun Valley, Haley, and Fairfield tomorrow. Tons of sunshine across the board. Highs around 60 for Long Valley. Will be upper 60s for Garden Valley and Riggin. 67 on deck for all of you in Council tomorrow. A beautiful midweek forecast for the Treasure Valley. 70 for Emmett, 71 in Ontario. Again, morning lows though around 40 degrees early. So you'll want to bundle up if you're headed out, especially before sunrise. We will warm up nicely though. We'll hit the mid 70s Thursday, Friday. That is seasonable for this time of year, but again, a slight chance of some showers and storms, very slim. Higher chances up in the mountains. Over the weekend, nothing but sunshine, and look at the 80s coming our way, near 90 on Monday. Looks like we will stay toasty and calm through the middle of next week.
A lot of comments coming in on the potential public land being sold off. Let's take a look. We'll start with this opinion. This person says that Representative Fulcher is selling us out on the budget bill, especially on public lands and Medicaid. Just look at the impacts the sale of timber company lands to Texans with their gates have on public land users in Boise and Valley counties, all under the guise of deficit reduction, which is really a cover for more tax breaks for billionaires. Comment continues, ask the congressman why the budget debate is scheduled for 1 a.m. in the morning, hoping no one will notice. David in Boise County. And this also fits in with our previous reporting that our Morgan Romero has done about the Wilkes brothers, who had purchased some of this land, made it private, and then they kind of blocked access to areas that, well, used to be accessible to the public, people that like to go out and recreate on it. But again, this vote, 3 a.m. Eastern time, Democrats criticizing it, hoping that they draw attention to it, but we will keep you posted. Chuck in Boise writes, selling public lands to shore up inept financial leadership is a bad idea. Any Idaho legislator who would vote for this bad legislation does not represent their constituents. We're seeing some comments like that. We also have one from Bob. 100% against selling our public lands. I believe we have some land that some private owners bought and are blocking the roads to get public land to. We covered that again in years past. There are some more recent efforts as well. Deborah wants to know why the library grant was canceled. Those Doge cuts. We got a lot to dig into tomorrow. We'll see you at 10-2 for Morgan's Report.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.